Hi. Despite the title, this video is to deliver a message, really, not to all the peoples of the world, not just Jews, but having said that, the Judaic people of the Judaic faith in particular are requested by universal intelligence, golden lie intelligence, to pay particular attention, because their decisions, their choice right now is going to be key in delivering real, lasting and positive change to our human worlds. And so I'm going to share this piece that I've written today. I'm going to narrate it. I'm sorry if you notice spelling mistakes and what have you. I'm dyslexic, so I've not given a title to it yet. I will publish it at some point over the next few days, and it is to share some understanding. Basically, it's casting light. I'm casting light that was passing on the light that I received, and so I'm going to share this piece. I hope it enlightens everybody, and as I say, people of the Judaic faith in particular have a key role to play now in turning this world the right way up, okay, because at the moment it's upside down. So I'll begin. You know how they say actions speak louder than words? Sometimes words speak as loudly as actions when we compare them with the actions of those speaking the words. What I'm about to present here is evidence. It is lawful evidence founded on fact, and which therefore supports the probability that any resulting suspicion is a real concern, or else that a particular understanding is most likely to be accurate. Lawful suspicion provides justification for further investigations and arrests, in order to prevent further actions from the lawful suspects until the point was satisfied that our suspicions are proven false or correct, usually through trial by jury if the suspect is adamant they're innocent in face of the lawful evidence. The whole point of a court trial is to satisfy any doubts about a suspect's innocence or guilt on behalf of non-extremists who are not prepared to mete out judgments on strength of gossip, belief and hearsay. Malicious accusations are the opposite of lawful suspicion. They rely on hearsay, rumour, gossip, false beliefs, lines and maligned thinking. There are no grounds for an assumption of probability. Extremist groups operate on strength of malicious accusations against any particular group. They afford strength, credibility and power to all who feel vindicated by the malice. Often jealousy and or paranoid fear is at the core of such malice. Most often the malice is serving a particular agenda for the kind of power that thrives on persecution of the innocent, in order that criminals among the favoured power circles may operate with impunity while receiving credibility, respect and material rewards. Hating someone else gives the hateful less time in which to hate and loathe themselves. Scapegoats are a useful distraction and facilitate comradeship among the haters, who collectively serve to scare off the non-haters into silence and complicity. Extremists are extreme in their attacks, while the majority moderates will rarely resort to extremist actions and are therefore easily intimidated by extremists. Moderates shy away from trouble. Extremists thrive on it. Moderates, however, will resort to what extremists perceive as extreme reactions in face of their crimes. Identifying and arresting a criminal is considered an extreme reaction only to the lawful suspect. Of course, arresting and investigating a probable criminal is not extreme unless there are actually no lawful grounds for arrest. It is in order to avoid arrest that the extremists fight for ever greater powers over the generally righteous / lawful majority. The more power the extremists gain, the more freedoms criminals have to commit their crimes, while condemning, persecuting and punishing the innocent, or else coercing the innocent into committing crimes by, e.g., creating the kind of laws that openly invite crime and injustice. When crimes are endemic and entrenched in the very powers established to serve and uphold the law, arrests and court trials do not happen. Juries and judges are rendered complicit. Trust is negated. In such circumstances, it is down to the larger civil society to be the detectives, judge and jury, and to accept lawful suspicion as grounds for our collective demand for arrests. Those employed in the corrupt powers are then compelled to choose a side. Will they support the criminals or their victims? Will they support the lawful concerns based on facts, sanity, sense and fair reason? Or will they stand by the opposite? Removing criminals from power is a revolution. Revolutions do not need to be bloody, riotous affairs. Iceland is a prime example of how a united people collectively refused to accept responsibility for a criminal debt and instead arrested the criminals. Iceland's revolution was peaceful because many of those with social power chose to stand on side of sense and sanity. Myself and the vast majority of global citizens sincerely hope that Iceland's example will be a guide for every nation currently under thumb of the same criminal banking cabals. So, back to the lawful suspicion about to be presented here. It is evidence which, when added to the wealth of other evidence, reasonably informs us that in all probability we are being governed by a Luciferian cult, which includes both knowing and unwitting supporters. In that sense, this video is made also to liberate many of those presently misguided by criminals and duped into standing against their own humanity. Forgiveness and amnesty are a key feature of lawful rebellion. Much of the lawful evidence is already presented in my many previous videos and written articles, as well as those of countless others engaged in exposing the problems and presenting the solutions. I'm only going to focus on one piece of evidence here, by way of adding the last few pieces to a previously incomplete jigsaw puzzle. First, like many, I've felt puzzled about the blatant hypocrisy of far-wrong Trump supporters, whom until recently I was misguided into accepting as far or alt-right. I will leave the video link sharing info about why we need to liberate ourselves from all such word spells that lead us to subconsciously accepting wrong as right and right as wrong / left. I am no longer puzzled. I now understand very clearly what we are witnessing and experiencing and why. Charlottesville presents the final, conclusive evidence. Far-wrong marchers were chanting, "Jews will not replace us." Isn't it strange, then, that those same people give their full support to POTUS Trump, a man who could not be closer to Netanyahu as Zionist president of Zionist Israel, and with Senate and Congress being required to swear an oath of allegiance to Israel? It isn't strange at all when we understand the truth. The global elites worship Lucifer, their fake god, established on crime, myth, persecution, depravity and fantasy. The most loyal Luciferians earn the greatest rewards of power, and the gold they value more than a child, a rainforest, the law or our rights. Their law is the satanic rule of do as thy will, and only the mightiest may have most power to do as thy will. Might equals right is a law set to serve wrong. It is hardly surprising they have hidden their wrong by informing their subjugate populations that their agendas are politically right. By placing faith in Zionists as their supreme Luciferian leaders, the supporting minions are aware their own freedoms to commit crimes with impunity, or even justification for committing crimes, will continue while ever their head remains in power. True Jews have themselves denounced Zionism as a warped philosophy that has usurped their faith in order to abolish God's law and replace it with an ideology of cultural supremacy, which in turn promotes all other forms of supremacy in terms of race, faith, gender, etc. The Saudi extremists have accepted Zionists as ultimate and natural leaders of humanity, knowing that Zionist leaders will in turn continue to permit extremist interpretations of Islam as the right of equally natural leaders. The same is true for extremist Christian groups, and all rely very heavily on the resulting extremist political choices and their equally extreme economic systems. All the extremists, knowingly or not, are serving the Luciferians. The lead Luciferians as Zionists have traditionally established themselves and thrive on persecution against Jews. It was on the blood spilled by Nazi philosophy that justified the Zionists to invade Palestine and thereafter commit crimes of terrorism against the native inhabitants. Any among Jews who spoke out or stood against this were described as self-hating Jews. Any non-Jews who speak out against Zionism are referred to as anti-Semitic. Zionists hide behind Judaic people's suffering in order to avoid facing up to the reality of their crimes against humanity, and indeed the very Hebrew concept of God they claim to uphold. Truth informs us without doubt that Zionist money funded Hitler's Nazi Germany as well as Stalinist Soviet Russia. History informs us that most of the wealthy elites of 1930s were heavily influenced by the notion of eugenics. People genuinely believed that those of pure genetic lineage were born to rule. Being intent on getting their hands on Palestine and virtually having already been guaranteed access to those lands, Zionists knew it was only a matter of time, and the Zionists of those days began to express concern that Israel would be instantly filled by the moderate and very wealthy Jews of Europe. Zionists did not consider those Jews as pure, because many originated from Turkish lineage when that nation adopted Judaism as many centuries ago. Hitler, it appears, along with Stalin, who very likely did murder millions of Jews, along with members of his own population, was covertly employed to refine the Jewish race, and simultaneously thwart a potential threat against Zionism that the wealthy moderate German Jews would represent. Making people poor also robs them of power. Zionists after World War II were thus placed in what they considered a healthy position to speak on behalf of all Jewish peoples, who gladly gave their support in face of being under attack on all sides by fanatical Christians, Nazis and communist Stalinists. Many non-Zionist Jews found courage to speak out. Einstein, along with many other Judaic intellectuals, spoke out very strongly against partition of Palestine. Unfortunately, the world public had fallen under the spell of the Zionist-controlled medias and puppet politicians. 6 million Jews had died. It was time Jews had their own land. Going back now to Charlottesville, we witness the fact of evidence now thoroughly confirming lawful suspicions founded on strength of historical revelations. No one can deny that Trump was hard pushed to condemn the Charlottesville extremists. No one can deny that Trump supports Zionism. No one can deny that the Jew-hating protesters support Trump. No one can ignore the blatant hypocrisy which doesn't make sense until we place events in context of a global consciousness that has accepted Zionists as the natural head of their worlds. That head continues to rely on persecution against Jews in particular. Therefore, the Charlottesville Jew haters are doing exactly as their leaders, i.e. Trump and Zionists, require of them, and with promises in the pipeline that soon they'll all be enjoying the rapture of being at liberty to legitimately terrorise Muslims, LGBTs, women and children, black people and Mexicans on behalf of re-establishing their preferred fascist criminal cultures that invited sadistic genocide against native peoples. While the majority have no idea they're in reality serving Lucifer, the managerial few funneling funding and media support know exactly who/what is being empowered. The majority of their unwitting supporters firmly believe they're serving God. The sad truth is that some, if not many among them, adhere to a maligned and corrupted understanding of God. Commonly, they mostly fear God as exclusively male, a vengeful, hateful character whose sole objective is to dominate, control, dictate, punish and oppress. While many cultures are happy to honour a Sabbath day in remembrance of God's resting on the seventh day, those same cultures have thoroughly ignored the very clearly written truth that God is both male and female, as is reflected in Genesis. Let us make man both male and female, in our own image, to be like us, and let us set them to tame the earth. Only ignorance, seeking power through division, could cripple the male by informing him that his other half is cursed and not favoured by God. Only the kind of men who want to rape women would use a twisted version of God to give themselves rights to deny females their rights of choice, autonomy, respect and dignity. Man, woman, child is the true Holy Trinity. All who would divide them are answerable to God's law. The beautiful truth is that the only accurate comprehension of God is founded on faith in the male-female universal intelligence that created us as fair, sane, balanced, compassionate, righteous, merciful, kind, understanding and forgiving. God is an intelligence who takes everything into account, and indeed, if it were not so, life on earth could not be. God gave us golden light guidance by way of providing humanity with the free will to choose on the side of universal law of abundance in compassion, as a beneficent guide through life and as the cornerstone to a fairer, kinder human world reality that raises happy, healthy children on foundation of the unconditional love that universal law provides. Those opposing universal intelligence have been most successful due largely to the fact that faith in the truth of God is weak. The common mass fear death is a finality, and therefore value is towards one's own present life above all else, and by contrast, the risks and rewards associated with obeying the Luciferian God are tangible and real. They are credited with physical and spiritual powers to directly impact our lives for better or worse, according to how far we're prepared to accept or submit to the Luciferian elitist agendas, and regardless as to what extent we're aware of either the agendas or the powers they serve. All we know for sure is that our rulers are committing crimes, and they are above the law. In fact, this is all we need to know to support lawful suspicion that it is not God's will being realised on our planet, but the devil's will, and the devil is quite simply a criminal. Humanity will play host to one or the other, depending on which law humans choose to serve, i.e. might equals right, or right equals might. The wrongs choose might, and side with the belief that those with most might equals most power are those blessed with most physical gold. The rights choose right, and they side with those who hold firm faith in the knowing that those with most power are those who are blessed with most golden light intelligence. The truly blessed are naturally powerful in order to deny power to criminals, and thereby empower the oppressed peoples to enjoy a peaceful and friendly coexistence within the natural diversities that contribute to the veritable rainbow of human culture on earth. Diversity is safe and non-extreme within a fair and balanced human consciousness. Balance of thought is the Zionists and their cohorts' biggest threat. Balance is humanity's only saviour. In light of what is shared and revealed in this video, it's important that Jews especially connect with the truth and denounce Zionism for what it most despicably is, a total usurpation and corruption of Judaic faith, which does support all the usurpers and corrupters of every faith and politic. Collectively, Zionists and their cohorts thrive on hate, war, terror and division. Their gains will only end when humanity accepts the truth of God as universal golden light intelligence and its law of abundance in compassion, that our souls are real and that we have more to fear through ignoring the truth than we have in embracing it. Charlottesville explains the truth of the consciousness at work behind the scenes. The Luciferian cult that insists on religious and racial division, that clings to now proven false ideologies like eugenics and supremacy as a right to be ignorant and commit crimes with impunity. Our natural cornerstone, compassion, is cast out of their equation. There's no room for compassion when the ambition is to rob, rape and kill. Compassion is left for a stumbling block to ensure only the very worst criminals will succeed in the competitions, and any amount of gold can buy a head start. The Zionists got a head start by covertly employing Nazis to arrest potential opposition from true Jews, by stripping them of dignity, respect, wealth and rights, and with controlling Zionists then appearing as credible saviours with a credible and righteous agenda. Palestine and Israel stand in testimony to the reality of Zionist rule. Do those lands as presently defined represent a divine higher consciousness, or do they not instead reflect a maligned, thoroughly corrupt and criminal consciousness? When God's chosen people really do start picking up their faith in the truth of God, it is then that all the lands of our planet are considered holy. I am one of God's chosen people. I was chosen to witness the event of universal golden light being and to receive the message of universal law via an energy of bliss. My full account is shared via my Supernatural or Not Yet video in links below. After 25 years research and activism, I have no doubt that my experience was real and is important for the whole of humanity to comprehend. The far wrong protesters at Charlottesville may be left feeling the reality of their wrong, and yet all they need is to trust in the forgiveness, understanding and compassion of the truly right, and thereby find complete liberation from the subliminal mind-control psyops that have led them into believing wrong thinking and judgments are right. Joy is for the redeemed and true believers of truth who have built their faith on what they know and not on what they're told by the holders of the most physical gold. Charlottesville leaves us in no doubt of the lawful suspicion. Zionists are once again keen to facilitate and covertly promote the persecution against Jews and also moderate / true Muslims and Christians, as a means of finalising the New World Order agenda of imposing corporate communism on humanity and thereby forever enslave all future generations toward repaying their unrepayable and criminal debt. Being totally insane and bereft of any true intelligence, they will, like a cancer, destroy our planet, and in that process themselves as well. But they don't care. They do not believe in our eternal soul. They think they only got this one life, and to hell with the life to come after they have perished. The law is an iron rod, and now fashioned into steel for a sword and scales of justice. And justice is blindfold, for it knows no favour over one man or another. All are equal before the law. Without true law established by true intelligence, every child born is delivered unto ruin. Humanity is a widow. As humanity is at our youth stage of evolution, we are offered a hand in marriage to universal law, a marriage which accepts both male and female equally. Zion the female head and Jerusalem the female heart. Without full rights and autonomy restored to women, the male humans shall know no peace or joy. The children shall be denied their rights to justice. The father is dead, and only oligarchs rule. Oligarchs rely on lawlessness in a lawful world. Oligarchs rely on lawlessness in a lawful world. The oligarch and their fascist psychologies are under... the oligarchs rely on lawlessness. In a lawful world, the oligarch and their fascist psychologies are under permanent arrest. They have no freedom to commit their crimes, or voice or express their criminal intent, i.e. people spouting the kind of rhetoric that judges law-abiding minorities as evil and a threat are recognised as suffering psychological imbalance and in need of therapy. Certainly they are not funded and revered as potential candidates for POTUS. Judaic people more than any are now called upon to take courage and to speak out against the Zionist Luciferians and all of their supporting extremists. Jews need to once and for all accept that adherence to Zionism will deny their ascension into the quantum paradise, which is every soul's ultimate journey through life after life through time. Those presently directly involved in Zionism need to do the same and thus save their own souls. Consider the evidence of Charlottesville. Accept the facts it both supports and reveals. Why would Zionist Netanyahu support Trump, who gives covert support to people who've been indoctrinated to hate Jews? Why would people who hate Jews give support to Zionist-loving Trump? The why has now been explained. The Luciferians controlling every side of the cultist oppositions are happy to serve Zionists, knowing full well they loathe the Hebrew God more than anybody on this planet, and they know that God will and does stand against them by the very fact that God is love. Rise up, humanity. Stand up for your human rights, and please demand immediate implementation of child protection directives. Trafficked babies and children are being murdered by the thousands every year as part of their Luciferian cults. It is in protecting the children and preventing crimes against them that we will achieve most success toward arresting the criminals now vamping off and destroying all the life of our planet. Yahweh liberated people to keep the fruits of their own labour within a caring, compassionate society that cares universally for the sick, the disabled and afflicted, under the beneficence of a fair and just law that serves all from the first to the last. A society where the only stumbling block is ignorance. It is ignorance and subsequent deception that has permitted the Zionists to rise to such heights of power today. Their ignorance has no foundation in truth, no roots in history, and no place in a truly civilized world. Give justice to the fatherless child, asked Yahweh through prophet Isaiah, and it is high time we did exactly that. God bless, love and strength to all. I will leave you the video links below this video that I've referred to in that piece. And thank you very much for taking the time to listen to me. I sincerely hope that it has enlightened you, that it will enlighten other people, that we will unite and stand up for the child's rights.